Hey everyone, this is Christian Heimel, host of Press Row. Thanks so much for listening to the following broadcast, courtesy of Public House Media.
This is Dr. Mariah White, host of Your Life Matters, here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you are done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Your Life Matters, where we talk about dreaming big and dreaming bold to reach your wildest dreams in both your health and your happiness. A new show comes out every single Tuesday. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Your Life Matters. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining the Confessions of a Military Spouse podcast. I am your host, Jenna. I am a military spouse of almost 10 years, a health and fitness enthusiast, a mom, and a newly registered dental assistant. Again, I want to thank you for being here with me today, and if you find that today's episode resonates with you, or you know someone else that could benefit from hearing this, I highly encourage and would love for you to share it. Also, I so greatly appreciate any and all feedback, and if you have any future topics you would like me to talk about, please feel free to reach out to me either on Instagram at Confessions of a Mil Spouse, on Facebook at Confessions of a Military Spouse, or feel free to email me at confessionsofaMilspouse@gmail.com or find me on publichousemedia.org. So on today's episode, I want to talk all about moving, or PCSing as the military calls it. I know it probably seems like it would be a pretty straightforward thing to do, but I'm here to tell you that it's most definitely not. So let's go ahead and chat about it. So for those of you who don't know, PCS stands for Permanent Change of Station in the Military, which I actually find very ironic because there's actually nothing permanent about it unless you consider being in a place for 1 to 3 years permanent. I don't know if you could tell or not, but I obviously find nothing permanent about it at all. And I actually think it should be called a TCS, a Temporary Change of Station. But nonetheless, that's what it stands for. So earlier I said this seems like something that is pretty straightforward. However, it's not. And I want to elaborate a little more about that. So when you're a civilian and you move outside of the military, you're pretty much able to do everything on your own. You get to decide what day you want to move. You get to reserve the moving truck for that specific day. You get to pack your own things however you want them. You get to put your things on the truck. You get to ensure that nothing is misplaced or broken. And then generally you're driving the moving truck yourself to your new place, or you've hired a company that you get to totally supervise. You get to unload it. You get to unpack your boxes yourself, etc., etc., etc. So pretty much everything is on your own terms whenever you move on your own as a civilian. However, when you move with the military, that's not always the case. I do want to be clear about something though. There is an option within the military called a DITY move, and it stands for a do-it-yourself move, which allows you to do exactly that. Do it yourself. And my husband and I have done both types of moves, and there are definitely pros and cons to each of them. So let's talk about the DITY move first. With the DITY move, it's basically as though you are a civilian and doing a move. So you have to do everything by yourself. You have to get all the supplies, you pack all of your things up, you put it onto the truck, you drive the truck, you unload it, you unpack it. But you also get to ensure that everything ends up where it's supposed to be and when it's supposed to be there. So what is a pro to moving that way? Well, like I said, you're in charge of everything. If something is lost or broken, it's on you, and you call the shots. You also get to know what's in each box, which I don't know if you've ever moved and you're kind of living out of boxes when you have no idea where stuff is. It's a little difficult. Also, another huge pro that usually sells most military people when they're considering doing a ditty move is the fact that there is definitely some money to be made, especially if you're just starting out. And I won't go into too many details, but like I said, there's definitely some money to be made, which sounds pretty good, right? Well, to be honest, it's actually not that bad, especially when your husband is in logistics. But it definitely has some cons too. One of the cons to doing a ditty move, in my opinion, is that you have to do it all yourself. So you have to buy all the supplies, which you do get reimbursed for. But if you've ever moved and you aren't in a place where like you can get recycled boxes or get boxes from other people that have recently moved, you know that it costs a small fortune for boxes, packing paper, tape, etc. So not only do you have to pack it yourself then you have to put the boxes on the truck yourself, then you have to drive the truck, you have to unload it and unpack it. And I know that I did say all of those things were also a pro, which I do believe that they are, but hopefully you'll understand why I say it's also a con in just a little bit. So I don't know about you guys, but my idea of fun is not packing boxes, loading a moving truck, driving said moving truck, unloading the truck, and unpacking the boxes. Like, that's just not really my idea of fun. Now, it's not to say that it's not necessarily my husband's. I don't know that it's his idea of fun, but I think he minds it a little bit less than I do. And we've done it a few times. And in the long run, I'm sure that we have saved money and I'm sure that we've actually made money. But it's just not my cup of tea. And I know that a lot of people do opt to do ditty moves because of the horror stories of having the military move you. And to be honest, those horror stories are enough to scare any sane person from actually letting the military move you. So let's talk about that. Moving through the military. So many things to say. So as I said before, my husband and I have done a lot of moves, both independently and through the military. In the 10 years that we've been together, we have moved 7 times. And trust me when I say it is not as exciting as you would think it would be. But in those 7 times, we've learned a lot. And each time, I think that we learned something different. And I will say before I go into any more of this is that we have been extremely fortunate with our military moves, and we haven't really experienced any of the horror stories that most people have, but I've heard enough that I feel like I'm comfortable enough to talk to you guys about it. So when the military moves you, they call you and basically set up a date for the movers to come out. So it's not necessarily on your terms. They kind of give you a, hey, this is the date that we have that's close to when you're supposed to move type of thing. So the movers come out and they come into your house and they literally pack everything for you. And when I say everything, I actually mean everything, like including the trash can with the trash still in it. And I wish I were joking about that little comment, but sadly it's actually true. So the thing is that this is obviously not the movers' things. So, the movers aren't moving their own house. They're here for a job and they're here to do work. So I don't think that they probably care as much about your household goods as they would their own. So sometimes they aren't the most gentle with it. Like I said, they have a specific job to get done and that's what they're there to do and that's what they're going to do. So they put whatever they can in these boxes and there's generally not a rhyme or reason to it. Which is a huge downfall to having the military move you because you literally have no idea where anything is at. So when you move yourself, you're packing these boxes and generally you can have a good idea of, oh yeah, I think I remember seeing, this thing in this box labeled this. But if the military is moving you, you probably aren't going to have any idea of where anything is at unless you are literally standing there watching them all day long. But there's so many people in your house at one time doing so many different things. It's hard to do that. So they also have to inventory everything. So they put your stuff in a box and they label it, let's say, bedroom. Then they have to put the dreaded sticker on the box and write down on their inventory sheet. So they have to put, let's say, sticker number 985 is bedroom items like clothes or whatever else is in the box. And that probably sounds pretty great to some people, but here's the problem. What the box says isn't always what is actually in there. And about those dreaded stickers, like it really is a good idea, and the, science behind it should ideally work out, but literally you find those stickers for years. So let me real quick tell you guys about our first experience with the military movers. Everything, to be honest, was pretty much where it was supposed to be. I think, though, a lot of that had to do with the fact that we pretty much had all of our stuff in storage. And unfortunately, when the military moves you, even if you have stuff in boxes, they can't just take those boxes and use them as their own. They have to technically unpack them and repack them in their box and then inventory them. Otherwise, they're not held accountable for what happens to those boxes. So I think that actually helped us a lot, though, with our first move, because they basically did just that. They took everything out of our boxes, put them in their boxes, and labeled them the exact same way that we had them labeled. So the bedroom stuff was mostly in the bedroom box, kitchen stuff was in the kitchen box, etc., etc., etc. And we even had a parts box for nuts and bolts and screws and, all of the parts and pieces to different things. And everything was in the parts box that was supposed to be there, except for the legs of our furniture, which we found it very odd because the movers specifically told us that that's where they were and that's where they were putting them. And so we searched that box, I'm not even sure how many times, like hoping that eventually it would just magically show up there. It's one of those things, like, you keep going back because you're thinking maybe you missed it, but it's really hard to miss the legs to your furniture. So eventually we branched out and we started searching other potential boxes that we thought, okay, well, it could possibly be in this box because there was some other stuff that was similar. But we never found them. And we thought it was so bizarre that of all of the things to go missing or for someone to possibly steal, which, yes, that unfortunately is a common thing that happens, why on earth would it be the legs to our furniture? Well, we eventually let it go and figured later on we would order new ones. We were in a temporary house at the time anyway, so it wasn't a huge deal. But one day I was searching in our garage because we hadn't unpacked a lot because we were in a temporary house. I was searching for something else in a kitchen box, and what did I find? Gold. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't find gold, but I did find the legs to our furniture. Why they were in a kitchen box, we have no idea. And it was like the last kitchen box that we had looked in. Like, we had opened pretty much every other box in our garage, but whatever was in this kitchen box, we knew we weren't going to need, so we didn't open it. And for whatever reason, I was searching for something within that kitchen box, and there they were. And like I said, we have no idea how that even happened, but stuff like that legit happens all the time. Now, I want to briefly touch on the fact that I mentioned about stolen items. Sadly, it is very true. One of the cons about having the military move you is that once your items leave your house, you don't really know where they go. I mean, we as people, trust that the military would ensure that our items are safe, but sadly, that's not always the case. Generally, when our items leave our house, they either go to a warehouse or a facility or someplace like that, and they sit there for a while until we're established at our new place. What happens while our items are waiting for us to get to our new place? I mean, honestly, who knows? Unfortunately, though, I've heard several people say that they have missing items once it's arrived to them, and they know it was packed because they watched the movers pack it. Or things show up broken because of carelessness, because it's not the movers' items, and they just want to get their job done. But you have to think about it. These movers that come in to move us obviously see the things that we have, and sadly, it would be really easy for things to just go missing. Now, there is a claim that we can file to try to get a reimbursement for things that are lost or broken or whatever the situation is, but it's not the same as having your own things. And when you move, let's say cross country, when you move, you want your things, and you don't want to have to be dealing with filing a claim that's going to take forever to get your money back to try to replace the items that were lost or broken or stolen or whatever the situation was. So another thing about having the military move you that I kind of mentioned before is that generally after the movers come and take your stuff away, you're still at your duty station for a few days, maybe even a week, before you actually move yourself. So I said, the military calls you and sets up a time to come pack your house. Well, that time is basically a range from the time that you're actually supposed to be leaving your duty station. So like I said, you could be a few days or maybe even a few weeks before you actually move. So you're left with either the basic essentials that you put aside and specifically told the movers not to pack, or you're in a hotel for that amount of time. Because it very, very rarely, I'm not even sure if it has ever worked out, that the movers come and you leave on the same day. And then once you do move, you have to be at your new duty station, established and ready to receive your home goods before they'll deliver them to you. Then it's on their schedule as to when they get them to you. So you can't call them and say, okay, I'm going to be at my new house on this Tuesday. Can my household goods be delivered then? It generally doesn't work like that. It's generally, okay, I have my house, I'm at my house, this is my address. And then the military will give you a time that works with their schedule to deliver your household goods. And I have known people that have gone weeks without their home goods because there was no availability for the company to bring them to you for that long. Again, Dustin and I have gotten very lucky with that and haven't had to wait more than a few days. But I also think that a big role in that is our PCS time. We generally, for whatever reason, PCS in the quote-unquote off season, so not during the summer when everybody else is trying to PCS, which, to be honest, I would much rather PCS during the summer, especially now because our daughter's in school, so I get why so many people are PCSing during the summer. But for whatever reason, that's not how his PCS schedule has worked out. So because we usually PCS in the off season, I don't think the companies are as busy. So I think that's why we've gotten so lucky. But I will be sure to keep you guys updated about that because our upcoming PCS is also in the off season. And we're going cross country. So we will see how this one works out. So while it seems like there's not a whole lot of good things about the military moving you, and you may even be questioning why anyone would let the military move you after hearing all of these things, let me just tell you this. First of all, there's absolutely no out-of-pocket expense for us if we move through the military. We don't have to buy boxes. We don't have to buy packing paper. We don't have to buy tape. We don't have to supply the moving truck. Nothing. The military provides all of that. Plus, I'm not sure if you've ever tried to move or pack with a kid or kids, but it is so freaking challenging, So for me, the fact that I don't have to mess with it, I will deal with my bathroom stuff being in my bedroom box and my kitchen stuff being in the garage box. I hate packing and moving. So if I can have someone else do it for me, I'm going to. You can just ask my husband, because I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have ironically been on vacation or something else, out of town for work, whatever, when we've had to move. And it's actually no coincidence. And I think he finally caught on to that. But I think the other thing too is that we have yet to be tainted with the horrible moving experiences that others unfortunately have had. So I'm not quite ready to totally write the military off yet. And this is what works for our family. I'm sure there are other families out there that only do the Diddy moves, and that's what works for them. You know, every family is going to have a different experience and opinion, and you can't always base your decision on someone else's experience. I agree that it's great to get other people's experiences and hear other people's stories, and use that to make an informed decision for yourself and for your family. And I also, am the type of person that you never know unless you try. So I could have taken all of these horror stories and I could have been like, listen, we will never move with the military because all of these horrible things happen and I'm not going to deal with that. But if I would have done that, I wouldn't have had the experiences with the military moving us that I've had, and I wouldn't be able to write and talk about what I'm talking about today. And I wouldn't be able to continue to use them to continue to get out of moving myself. So I know there are tons of moving stories out there, both good and bad. Honestly, I think the bad is probably going to outweigh the good, but I would absolutely love to hear them. So feel free to find me on social media, either Instagram or Facebook. You guys can email me at the email address I provided at the beginning of this episode. And as always, thank you for being here with me today. And I hope that you guys were able to take some tidbits out of this episode and use them to make an educated decision for you and your family.